Footnotes from the Life Application Study Bible. Another internal problem developed in the early church between the Hebrew-speaking Christians, probably local Jews who had come to faith, and the Greek-speaking Christians, probably Jews from other lands who had been converted at Pentecost. The Greek-speaking Christians were complaining that their widows were being unfairly treated. This favoritism was probably not intentional and was more likely caused by the language barrier. To correct the situation, the apostles put 7 respected Greek-speaking men in charge of the food distribution program. This solved the problem and allowed the apostles to keep their focus on teaching and preaching the good news about Jesus. When we read the descriptions of the early church, the miracles, the sharing and generosity, the fellowship, we may wish we could have been a part of this perfect church. In reality, the early church had problems just as we do today. No church has ever been or will ever be perfect until Jesus and his followers are united at his second coming. All churches have problems. If your church's shortcomings distress you, ask yourself, would a perfect church allow me to be a member? Do what you can to make your church better. A church does not have to be perfect to be faithful to Jesus. As the early church increased in size, so did its needs. One great need was to organize the distribution of food to those who were poor. The apostles needed to focus on preaching, so they chose others to administer the food program. Each person was a vital part to play in the life of a church. If you are in a position of leadership and find yourself overwhelmed by responsibilities, determine your God-given abilities and priorities, and then find others to help with the other tasks. If you are not in leadership, you will have gifts that can be used by God in various areas of the church's ministry. Offer these gifts in service to Him. The 12 are the 11 original disciples plus Matthias, who had been chosen to replace Judas Iscariot. This administrative task was not taken lightly. Notice the requirements for the men who were to handle the food program. They were to be well-respected and full of the Holy Spirit and wisdom. People who carry heavy responsibilities and work closely with others should have these qualities. We must look for spiritually mature and wise men and women to lead our churches. The apostles' priorities were correct. The ministry of the Word should never be neglected because of administrative burdens. Pastors should not try, or be expected to try, to do everything. Instead, the work of the church should be spread out among its members. Churches can use the model of the early church to establish ministries and appoint leaders who meet the same guidelines established by the apostles. Spiritual leadership is serious business and must not be taken lightly by the church or its leaders. In the early church, the chosen men were ordained or commissioned by prayer and the laying on of hands by the apostles. Laying hands on someone, an ancient Jewish practice, was a way to set a person apart for special service. Jesus had told the apostles that they were to witness first in Jerusalem. In a short time, their message has infiltrated the entire city and all levels of society. Even some Jewish priests were being converted, an obvious violation of the wishes of the High Council. We should be encouraged that these priests, dedicated students of the Old Testament, were willing to endanger their position because they were confident that Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah who fulfilled all the law and the prophets. The message of Jesus spread like ripples on a pond, spreading wider and farther with each passing day. The good news still spreads this way. You don't have to change the world single-handedly. Even a small pebble dropped in a pond causes ripples all the way to the shore. Every inch of shoreline can be touched and impacted by one small pebble. Don't ever feel that your part in God's kingdom's work is insignificant or unimportant. Your actions in service to God reach out further than you realize.